everyone, I'm Rebecca and welcome back to my sewing room. This week I am going to be continuing on with my court gown, English Regency Court Gown project, and ideally, maybe finishing it. That might be totally overestimating how things will go this week, but I'm really hopeful because I have quite a bit of time. Like, I think I have all of my evenings free this week. So I am really hoping that we can actually get everything finished here. So where we're at right now is that the skirt currently has 2 rows of the sequins on, and while I've chosen the lace trim to go around the bottom, I have not actually put that on yet. Now, I think in total that there are 9 rows that will hopefully be getting the sequins. I don't know if I'll be finishing all of that stuff this week because basically I'm going to kind of give myself all of the time leading up to costume college to actually put those sequins on, because each row takes about 2 hours to do between like placing the line of where everything should go and then actually stitching it on. So that may be an overtime project, but what we're really going to be focusing on this week is completing the over robe portion of it and hopefully moving on to the head and hair accessories that go with this project. So when we left off last week, I had just sewn on the gold metallic trim on the center front right here. The next thing that I need to do is to put my ruffled trims right here onto the bodice. I think I'm going to have to make a little bit more of the ruffled gold. I talked about this a bit last week, but basically the original bodice description mentions both blonde and gold to make up this like faux fur tippet thing that goes around the neck. And so these combined together kind of give that look of fur. And blonde was lace, and so that's this white lace with the gold that's in the lace right here. And I assume when they're referring to it that gold is also lace. So that's why I've got the gold metallic lace. This is the same lace that is flat on the bodice here, but it's just been ruffled. So this is all going to get, I think, probably hand sewn, unfortunately. I'm gonna see if I can do it by machine, but I have a feeling this is gonna have to be hand sewn on around the neckline of the bodice. And once I have that done, then I can move on to the sleeves. I have already marked out on the silk the kind of mid elbow part. I don't know if you can see my little trapezoids on there, but I've already marked that out. So that is the lower sleeve when we look at the fashion plate here. And then the upper sleeve is going to be made out of this. To be honest, I have no clue what kind of fiber content this is, but I think it might be a rayon cotton blend, and it's got a gold metallic stripe through that, which I know is different from the original plate. If I have time, like before costume college, I may add spangles to this, like literally just using my string sequins and like taking some off and sewing them onto there. But it's not a big deal to me if that's something that doesn't happen or that I don't have the time or the patience for. But this is just going to be an upper puffed sleeve. And then I've got ruffles that are going to go around the bottom of it. I've yet to decide what exactly they're going to be made of. I'm hoping that I will have enough of this gold bit lace in here that I can do triple ruffles out of this, but I'm not positive that that's actually gonna be enough left because I have not counted how much yardage I have remaining after obviously the part that I'm going to be putting on the neckline. So speaking of the neckline, I'm gonna go ahead and get hand sewing, and I will join back with you all once that has been applied. The fur trim is now on. I say fur in quotation marks, all of the lace. So I did wind up adding another gathering stitch around the top of this. I think I talked about that in the last video that I was debating about adding that. And yeah, I just felt like it wound up making things look a lot better and neater. And then there's 2 gathering stitches run through the middle of this. And I just sewed on machine kind of in between those 2 gathering stitches with the gold metallic thread in the upper thread of the machine. So although you can see where it's pressed down, you really can't see the actual thread itself. And then under here, I actually just sewed right along the edge and then down here also on the machine with white thread. And I feel like it hides pretty decently. Like, I think doing it by machine was the right answer, and I do think it looks pretty furry. So hopefully that will look good once it's on as well. Haven't tried it on yet, but I think that is the right idea. The lacing rings are on. They blend in so well with the lace itself, so I'm really happy how those turned out. This is the ribbon that I picked out from Joann's, so it's kind of a gold that tends to be a little bit more on like the white gold side. And I'm not sure if I like tying it in a bow up here, but that's what I'm going to do for now, I think, and then we'll see how that looks. But yeah, that is how the overall lace up looks there. I do think that the original plate may have actually been spiral lacing. I tested it out that way. Here's a little picture. I didn't like how it looked. I like this one better. So I think that this goes better with the shape of the lace because it really mimics that shape. So yeah, I really like that. So I did what was potentially a stupid and dangerous thing, deciding not to make a mock-up of my sleeve because it's a puffed sleeve, or at least the upper portion is a puffed sleeve, and I felt like I generally have a pretty good grasp on puff sleeves and they're pretty forgiving. So I have a sleeve here, not a sleeve mock-up. I did decide to only assemble one, and by assemble I mean like attach these parts together and put it into the arm's eye. The rest of it is already made up. But basically this sleeve consists of actually 4 pieces of fabric. So we have the outer material here, and then that is flat lined with cotton organdy because this outer material, it's lightweight, but it's also got a really heavy drape, and really like nothing else would have given it any sort of buoyancy whatsoever besides cotton organdy. So even with the cotton organdy, you can see it is still fairly drapey, but I think that we're getting that right size of puff. Obviously, or maybe not obviously, I'm not wearing my stays right now, so things are not fitting correctly at all, but I didn't feel like putting my stays on just for this try on. I basically just wanted to look at my neckline trim, which I think is looking right. It's, again, not looking the same because my boobs aren't in the same place that they would be in stays, but I think that it is looking right overall, and I think that the sleeve is looking right overall. So I do have the lower portion down here as well. I had already talked to you about that sort of trapezoidal shape. I also lined this with cotton organdy, though I think I used a softer, like older cotton organdy that I had in the stash for this one, because all I really needed was just like a little bit more heft than the silk, and I didn't want to line it with like something heavier like a cotton sateen, so I just went with the organdy for that as well. But yeah, I think that the sleeve looks really good, and all that it needs at this point is I'm probably going to finish off this edge and then do the ruffles. So let's talk about the ruffles here, because there's 2 factors that are going to make this more complicated. There are 3 tiers of ruffles that are meant to get attached onto here, because that is what it says in the description of the original outfit. And those tiers should also be like graduated. Like when we look at it here, we can see that, you know, they are longer than each other and shorter than each other. And so they need to be different widths. And then the other complication is that I really do want to use more of the lace that I have around the neckline here. But I have 198 inches of this lace left, and I did the math, and with this being 14.5 inches around at the bottom, this right here, this lace was triple gathered, so like a 3-to-1 ratio, and that would mean that if I were to do 3 ruffles on one sleeve out of the 3-to-1 ratio gathered lace, I would need 130.5 inches for one sleeve, which would mean that for 2 sleeves I would need 260 inches. But we've already established that I only have 198 inches, so that doesn't work. And also with the being 3 different lengths, and also like with it being I think a little longer than the width of my lace anyway, I don't think we can get away with doing just lace, because basically I feel like the bottom tier should wind up starting kind of about here, which as you can see is about a 2-inch gap from the bottom of the red part here. So maybe I can attach this onto something. That might be a possibility, and gather it up and attach it to that, therefore not needing a 3-to-1 ratio. Maybe that would work, because 3-to-1 might be a little bit tight anyway. I mean, this is fairly tightly gathered up here. But yes, something's gotta change, because I need it to be the 3 different lengths, and I need to have like enough of it if I'm using this, which I would like to. This has been in my stash for ages and ages, and it would be kind of cool to be able to like use it all up on this project, frankly. So I've got to work out how that's going to work. The other thing that needs to happen on the sleeve is that I am going to add trim around the top of here. I'm fairly certain that I want to add the same trim that's going around the hem of the skirt. That said, I don't know how much extra I have of this because I haven't put it around the hem of the skirt yet, and I can't really put it around the hem of the skirt until I finish putting the sequins on. What I can do is obviously measure it and see, like, am I way over, in which case great, because I don't want to have to buy more of this just for this little bit right here. What I will have extra, because I did have to buy more, is this lace right here. So I don't mind using this one, but I think I would rather use this just to tie it up from the skirt, because if we look at the sleeve decoration here and the skirt decoration here, they look like the same sort of tassels, and I think it would be good to use the same sort of thing to tie in as well. So yeah, that's everything that's going on with the sleeves. To begin with, I'm going to go ahead and set the other one since this one does work, and I'm going to bind off the edges here and then figure out how the lace is going to work. And frankly, I might not actually even bind off the edge, because if I am having some sort of like a fabric to attach in that gap, I don't really need to bind it off. I can just use that really as the in-between. So I'm going to go get to work on all that. I think I figured out how I want the lace bits to mount on the sleeves. So basically I've created these little strips here, which are somewhat trapezoidal. They are actually 1 inch smaller on this side than they are on this side. This side is the same dimension as the bottom of the red silk part of the sleeve. And so these are going to get put right sides together right here. I've already marked a line that is 1.5 inches down from here, which means it'll be 1 inch down from when it is attached at the bottom with the seam allowance. And that is where the second row of ruffles is going to be mounted. So the top row is going to be right at the edge of the red, where the red meets the white, and then the second row here. And then once the right sides are put together, the hem is going to be turned up here, and the third row of ruffles is going to be mounted right here at the hem. So it'll be 3 tiers of ruffles. Basically, this bottom one will kind of look the longest. I'm hoping that that is how it should be. I feel like looking at the fashion plates, that makes sense. So I will just have all of these gathered up and then attached at each of those tiers like that, so we get the tiers of the 3 ruffles. Do you like my hair? I know, it's ridiculous. I bought a super cheap wig off of Amazon. It was literally like $25. I'll link it down in the description in case you're interested, but basically I don't have the volume for 1790s hair. I mean, like, when we look at this sort of hairstyle, that takes a lot of hair and a lot of curl, and I just don't have that in my natural hair. So I knew that I wanted a wig, and I knew that none of the wigs that I currently owned would actually work for like this tight ringlety curl. So I got this super cheap wig off of Amazon, again $25, and I think it's actually gonna work. So the wig, it came like this, like, oh, ugly hairline, but 1790s we actually need curly bangs, so I'm probably going to have to recurl the bang section because they're just not very neat curls right now, and I feel like they should be a little bit more specifically ringlety. And obviously I'm going to have to do various pulling up, pinning up, etc. for this wig, but this is a decent base, I think, actually, for this sort of hairstyle. Now, I did debate about getting like a lighter color, even like a gray or something like that, because when we look at all of the fashion plates of this era, the 1790s, we see gray hair on every single lady. Now, that said, when we look at then the fashion plates of like the 18-aughts, and I'm talking about the court gown fashion plates, by the way, when we look at the fashion plates of the 18-aughts and 18-teens, they are all brunettes. So I don't know if this was literally just a way to draw them, as in not put color in their hair, because obviously that's easier just to do like a pencil sketch and leave it, and then with Regency just do brown like across the board, or if that was literally the trend. In the later Regency it was all brunettes, and in the earlier it was all like the gray powdered hair that you think of as from the 18th century. But frankly, that does not look good on me, so I'm perfectly willing to powder this wig, but that way I still have the base color underneath and I don't start with gray, so it looks a little bit more realistic, I hope. I mean, I know I look like I'm an 80s rocker over here with this. This is pretty ridiculous. But also good to know if you're looking for a 1980s wig, you know, I think this will work. So I have to figure out now how to put this together into a semblance of the hairstyle, because frankly, I finished the lace sleeves. This was all just machine sewn on in little rows, so I had to gather each one up separately, and then I drew my lines on. I haven't erased them yet, but I drew my lines on and attached all of those ruffles, and I think it looks quite good. I am waiting to do the gold lace until I can put the stuff around the hem, because I think I should have enough, but if I have extra, I actually think I want to run a gathering stitch in it and give it just a little bit extra volume. So I definitely need to wait until that part is done before I can put that last finishing touch on there. But otherwise, I mean, this is finished other than the length, and I can't do the trim on the length and actually hem it until I do the little poofy bit in the back of the head. So I think what I'm gonna do, I mean, looking at this, we have some sort of like probably just a straight piece of fabric that is maybe twisted up and wrapped around the front of the head here. And then I think we have kind of just like a poof in the back. So I'm gonna cut a circle of the red silk fabric and maybe a band at the bottom for it to go into. And I'm gonna gather that circle around. I am gonna do a mock-up first because I don't wanna waste my silk, but I think that's all it is. What I find pretty comical is that I feel like my pincushion hat is actually the exact dimensions that I need for this hat, which is cool because I can just, you know, take this measurement. I'm not going to fill this one with foam like this one is. That was just to hold the pins in, which I just got stabbed with a pin from inside. But yeah, I think the dimensions actually work pretty darn well for that cap on the back. If you have no idea what this is because you haven't been following me since I think that was 2021 or 2020 actually, it might have been. I will link the video with the pincushion hat down below. It was for a Hussif fancy dress costume that I made that year, which was really, really cute, 19 teens era. And yeah, I made a pincushion hat to go with it with actual pins in it, but it's a good little model. I also just wrapped some sort of ribbon around my head to see like how long I would need it to be and maybe approximately how wide. I am going to take just the white with the gold fabric in here and I'm going to go across so we get like little horizontal stripes, or I guess they'd be little vertical stripes really, going across the length of the piece. And I'm just going to create a really big tube that is the length of what I've kind of marked out here. And it's going to be a little bit wider than this, but then doubled so that I can make it into a tube. And that is what is going to wrap around in the front. Not me realizing that with my giant hips and the giant feathers on my head, I am literally not going to fit through any normal sized doorway. I've cut a circle here with a 17-inch diameter, which is actually 1 inch larger than this because I do want it just a tiny bit more poofy. And I've also cut it in silk organza here because I want it to still be super, super lightweight, but I do want it to have a little bit more body. So I think the silk organza will work. I'm going to flatline these together, though I don't know that I'm going to use the serger, to be honest, because I know this is going to shift a lot if I try to do that. So I think I'm going to use the sewing machine because this is going to be fully encased in a little band. I'm not going to do a band that is this wide. I think this is like a 1 inch band. I'm thinking I'm going to do like a 5/8 inch band. So it'll be cut double that plus 1/2 inch seam allowance so that I can fold it here. And I don't think I need, like this has full on interfacing in it. I don't think I need that. I might do some silk organza in the band as well, just to give it that tiny bit more structure. Oh, and I'm cutting the band smaller around than this. I'm cutting it 23.5 inches around. Flowing from the back of the cap and part of required court dress are lappets. They were supposed to be of point lace, which I don't have point lace. So we're going to go with the gold lace motif. This is a narrow metallic gold lace, and I'm actually going to seam these, or really like I'm going to stack them one on top of each other flat together like that and sew down the middle so that it can be like a double-sided wide lace. I've got quite a bit of it, so I think it will be long enough because they were very, very long lappets. If we look at this plate right here, we can see in the back just how long hers are. Mine probably won't be that long, but I think this will do a nice job of becoming my little lappets. Hi, what do you think? Yeah, I am kind of loving this. This is a stand-in tassel, and actually after I put together the little poof part, I realized that this isn't really a poof in the plate when we look at it. This is something that probably comes to a point. However, I think I'm doing a decent job of just like faking it and creating my own point by just choosing a point on the hat to put a tassel on. I also realized that in doing this, I've basically created a mirror image of this, but I'm probably going to keep it this way. I mean, obviously it'll depend on how I put it on the day of, but I think it looks really good. Like, I'm quite happy with it. I will do a different tassel. I will probably do one out of metallic gold because that's what makes sense. So either I will find a pre-made one like at Joann's, or I will just take my gold thread and make one. We'll see what happens there. I also still don't have the star brooch that goes on here. I don't feel like I have something currently that is really that great. I don't have a lot of gold-based like diamond rhinestone jewelry, and so basically let me show you my 3 options, and I don't know if I'm gonna go with any of them, honestly. So my first thought was this one, which I last wore, I think, at the Victorian Festival, as it's a brooch. I just wore it as a brooch on my bodice, but I don't like the dangly bit, so I would take that off. Like, that's just a little ring. I can easily undo that with a little needle nose, but I feel like even beyond that, once we put that on, it's like it's just got this weird like eye in the middle, and I'm not loving it. So although I do like the size and the color, I don't think that it really works. Then this one, I love the shape of it. It's so pretty, but it's obviously silver, and there's no silver anywhere else in here. I definitely need gold. And to be honest, once I put it on here, I also think it's a little small. So I think even if I were to find this in gold, it just wouldn't quite work. So the one other option that I have, I don't think it's blingy enough, and it's certainly not a star, but it is this. I think it's actually like a vintage shoe clip, because if we look at the back, it's got this little clippy thing on it. So like it could maybe, it's probably broken off, but it could maybe like have slid onto a shoe and then have a little clamp down right there. But it does look kind of nice. It's just really plain. So I might use this kind of as a stand-in until I find something better, but I think I'm going to have a look online, see what I can find. I do have time, luckily, even to order something from like AliExpress, which is where both of these came from initially several years ago. So I hopefully will have time to find something that works better by the time that I need this for costume college in a little over a month at this point. Actually, it's closer than I feel like it should be. I also want to figure out what other sort of diamond clips to put around the hair and hat, because it does mention that in the description. Like, I have this little leafy bit right here, and I think I might have a couple more of these somewhere. This was the only one that I could find right now, but like to put these like on the edge of the little hat puff part, that might be good. I'm also still toying with the idea of maybe putting the vintage gold trim that I've showed you guys before. I think that might have been the last video that I have showed you, maybe putting that around. My one dilemma with this is that I feel like my hair is going to get caught in this really easily, because it is very like tactile, because it is gold worked embroidery, actual like, well, maybe not actual gold, but it is like that thread wrapped sort of situation. Bullion, I think, is what that is. So yeah, I don't know for sure about that. I could also just add like more of the gold lace around it, because right now it just looks a little bit plain back here, as you can see. So yeah, I also still have to figure out how to put my lace lappets on. One idea that I kind of am thinking of is right now the turban part is literally just starting with the middle right here and then wrapped around twice, and I still threads on here, and I have tied the back in a knot, and so you can see there's a little bit extra right there. But if I cut that like an inch or so shorter and just attach the lappets from there, I feel like that might actually work. Or I guess the question is, do I want them to actually be coming from the cap? And honestly, I don't know, because like if we look at this one, they're definitely attached to the cap, but it's pretty much the only back view we have. And a lot of the others that are later in the Regency for court dress, I feel like you see them coming from just whatever, you know, elaborate hairstyle they have, because they weren't really doing caps and stuff then. So these are just kind of streaming from their hair. So I'm not sure yet about that. I also had decided to put the bodice on. I haven't done the lace up portion across, which I probably should try and do just to know how difficult it's going to be, because I feel like it's going to be difficult. But yeah, I put the bodice on just to see, because I hadn't had it on with like the sleeves and everything. Obviously, again, still missing the lace trim that goes on here. I also do worry a bit that it's pulling at the hooks and eyes. Like, I feel like maybe you can see the bars particularly, which I don't love that, but I don't know how to really fix that without, you know, just having less tension on it, which we do have tension. I'm not obviously wearing the rest of this right now. I am gonna wait until I probably do that lighter weight petticoat before putting that on again, because that petticoat just pulls everything down so much. The other thing that I do need to figure out that I don't know if I can do until like everything's kind of done is that there is meant to be a gold belt kind of where everything connects together here. Now, I don't know if that should be directly sewn on to the bodice or if that's something that is literally just a belt that's like put on afterwards. I feel like sewing it on would keep it in place better. And I did pick up a couple of ribbons from Joann's that maybe would work. So I'm gonna look at those in the mirror and see, but I have my doubts, and I also feel like that is something that I need to put on the full skirt and everything for, so that might be a little bit later down the road. But yeah, I wanted to show you the hairstyle. All I did with this wig, besides like bring the front bangs down, I still haven't neatened them at all, which I don't know honestly if I even need to, is I kind of pulled up just a couple pieces after I put everything in my hair and just like tucked up a couple side pieces so it was a little bit more fullness in the back than it is in the front. I think it's working. So I probably will do a little bit of powdering to it just so it's not so bright, but I really like the look of this whole do together, and there's not too much more left that I have to do to finish this off. Like the tassel, I do actually have to hand sew a little bit on the cap, the facing of like the band. I have to flip that up and sew that. And the feathers right now are literally just pinned into my hair. I do have a little like doohickey that's meant to hold them, but I have to figure out how that works. So right now they're pinned. I already hit one doorway because I forgot that I'm taller than the doorways, but yeah, this is gonna be interesting when I'm wearing all of this together. Anyway, I'm gonna go figure out these little bit of things and I will talk to you later. So I've been doing the whole like reverse mirror trick to try to get a good view of like where the lappets should connect to. And I do think that they look better when they are connected to the little hat as opposed to like coming from underneath the hair. So that is what I'm gonna do. I think basically I've picked like the point where the tassel goes. So I might as well pick, okay, well this is the back point from here, like the bottom of the center back. And I think I'm just going to attach them in there and have them extend from that point so that it's like attached to the band. I think that makes sense to me, and I'll just have the both of them attached probably side by side, maybe with a slight overlap at that point. So that'll be good. I'll sew those on. And the other thing that I can do now that I know that the cap part works is that I can finally actually hem the bottom of the train. Now my train again is just, oh, my feathers are going haywire. My train is just the single panel. It's not lined. It's nothing like that. And basically, I'll bet you could probably tell where I cut the cap out of. So I did lose, unfortunately, about a foot of length because of the cap. So that's a little bit of a disappointment. No, I guess, yeah, probably about a foot. So I'm just going to cut it off even at that high point there, or low point, I guess, if you will. And then I'm just going to turn up the hem. My feather's really going crazy now. Clearly it is, oh yeah, it fell out of its bobby pin. I do need to figure out a better way to get these feathers to actually stay. But for now, I'm just going to, nope, the other one, okay, well, that's this one's still connected to its bobby pin. There we go. And yeah, I'm just going to turn that up. I may even do that hem on the machine because it's going to get covered over by more of the gold lace. So once it is hemmed, I'm literally just going to sew this on all around the edges. I'm planning to do it on machine with the metallic thread, which you probably can't even see that I'm holding right now. But yeah, that's gonna go all the way down both of the sides and then across the bottom of the hem. So I think that's gonna look very pretty. I do still have, like, even with having cut it shorter, I do have at least probably about, I don't know, 3 feet that drags on the ground. It's quite a bit. It's hard to tell. At least 2.5 to 3 feet that drags on the ground. Obviously it will be slightly shortened once it's over the paniers as well, but since it basically just falls straight in the back, it won't be that much shorter. So yeah, I think that's gonna work well. Maybe it's actually good that I had to shorten the train, because this is how much lace came on that spool, the second one that I got. And yeah, I have like 1.5 inches extra. So yeah, I mean, I do have some left from before, but if I wind up needing to use it on the sleeve, it's probably really good that this all worked out. It's all pinned in place, and now I'm going to stitch it on. I have all of the skirt lace pinned on, but unfortunately, unless I wanted to buy a whole other roll, I'm not going to be able to use this on the sleeves because I have enough for one sleeve, but not two, which is really too bad. I do have more of this that was left over from the first time that I bought it before I put it around the skirt. So there is enough of this to be able to go around each of the sleeves. So I guess this one will do, and I won't probably put any of the gold trim on the hat because I feel like this is too wide for the hat, this one right here, even though this would actually have enough left to go around. So Lion just wants to say hi and show you his work that he has been doing on the whole dress. Basically, I just wanted to come in here and show you this is what it looks like with the gold trim all around the hem. And then this is what the train of the top part currently looks like with the gold trim. This part is not complete yet actually, because first I went around and I sewed along the outside over here, which I think you can maybe barely see. I used the metallic thread again and I sewed along that side, and then I have been slowly, because it takes so long, going around, and even though this is by machine it still takes forever, and sewing down this side over here by machine also with the gold metallic thread. I don't feel like you can really see that at all. You can see it where it branches over just the tiniest bit, but yeah, that basically I'm outlining each of these practically, trying very hard to avoid all of the centers in there. And I think I'm doing a pretty good job, but it's a very slow go. So that is not quite complete yet, but will be complete very soon. And unfortunately, I have run out of time this week for all of the little like slow, tedious things that are left to do on this court gown. So just kind of talking through everything that still has to happen. The gold lace trim has to be put on the sleeves. I'm thinking about gathering what I have left to see what that looks like gathered as opposed to flat, since I do have the shorter trim and not the longer one that I wanted to put on. So I'm going to experiment with that. I have at least, I think, at least 5, if not 7 or 8 more rows of the sequins to put on the skirt. So that's going to be another very slow going thing that's going to take a while. And I have the rest of the going back and forth along the edges of the train to do on the lace. And then whatever leftover trim might be, I think I'm going to put around the band of the red poofy cap part just to give it a little bit more decor in that. But otherwise, oh, and I have to make the tassel for the cap, but otherwise all of the headgear type stuff is complete. So for the tassel, I'm debating about possibly making that its own video of like just a quick tutorial on how to make tassels. If I wind up making the tassel, if I wind up buying the tassel, obviously that video is not going to happen. But basically all of the rest of this, because it is really slow, tedious stuff that I'm going to be doing little by little over the course of the next like month leading up to costume college, I'm probably going to just spread all of that work out and potentially combine that in its own video with the reveal at the end. I'm not going to be able to actually film a reveal for this video until costume college, because I can't wear this anywhere that I don't get dressed where I'm wearing it. It's too big to leave the house. It's too big to go in a car. It is just really very ungainly. So that whole reveal video is going to be over a month from now. So I do apologize that you're not really getting that full reveal. You got kind of the waist up semi-reveal earlier this video. But yeah, the full reveal is going to have to wait for quite some time. And in the meantime, I'm going to be going on to other projects, both for costume college or stuff that I started and didn't finish, yes, purple gown, or also just random other stuff as well. So look for all of that content coming soon over the next month or so in the lead up to costume college. But if you liked this video, please go ahead and click the thumbs up icon. And if you'd like to see more videos like this from me, please go ahead and click subscribe and the little bell icon to be notified every time I post a new video. I do post videos here on YouTube at least once a week with sewing vlogs like this out on Tuesdays and sometimes additional costuming related content out on Saturdays, but I post every day over on my Instagram, so please go follow me on Instagram. That's at Lady Rebecca Fashions. And if you'd like to help support all of the work that I do on this channel, I do have a link to my Patreon and my Ko-fi down in the description below, or you can send me a super thanks or join my YouTube channel memberships right here on YouTube below the video. I'd also like to give a special shout out to my Edwardian level patrons, Jean, Dan, and Kim. Thank you all so much for joining me today. I hope you all have a wonderful week, and I will see you very soon in my next video. Happy sewing!